Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. We're joined again by a wonderful guest who was on the program some time ago and who has just recently returned from a wonderful journey in Africa. For most of you listening in, you're thinking to yourself, Africa, boy, that sounds pretty cool. I wouldn't mind getting out there and doing a little traveling myself. And as you realize that somebody's out there on such a wonderful adventure, you start to realize the place you are in life, and maybe perhaps you don't feel as satisfied as you would like to. Well, join us on a little adventure as we take you into the Simplicity of Stillness method, which is her newest book that she's sharing with us today. And she is also known as an internationally renowned thought leader and visionary author who has shared the stage with people such as Greg Braden, Panache Desai, and Eric Pearl. She's also been interviewed on NBC and Fox News about her pioneering mind-body research. She's back here on the Beyond 50 radio program today to dazzle you with what would be known as simplicity. Marlise Carlin, thank you for joining us back here on the program today.
Daniel, it's so nice to hear from you and to be here with everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I could take it that you didn't swim with the hippos while you were in Africa because you're back here with us today. What's been going on with you since the last time we talked?
Oh, so many things. You know, what's so great is when you're doing the work that I do, you're always evolving, you know, and hopefully everybody's always evolving, but you're learning so much. And I learn from all the people that I work with. And just watching what happens, and now we're calling it the SOS method for short, makes it quick and easy. And just seeing the evolution of the SOS method and how much more rapidly today it's helping people with so many of the different challenges that we all have with stress and, you know, with being able to relax deeply and to be able to have a healthy body, which is so important in our lives. So SOS is really elevated to a whole new playground, and it's great seeing that occur in all the countries that I travel to and what's happening. So that's where we're going.
Exactly. Now, I know that, it was wonderful having you last time here as we talked about your book, The Power of Peace in You. And I'll tell you that since that time, there was a particular quote that you had in your book that I would say at that time that it profoundly affected me in such a way that I've actually said this many times when I have talked with other guests that might be considered to be experts in the kind of field that you work in, and that is, you'll come to a point where you'll have such great peace that whether something is good or whether something is bad, either way it's okay with you. And I've said that many times over the program because at that moment I profoundly understood, you know, that is so true now, that there really isn't a whole lot to fear out there except maybe yourself. Isn't that true?
Yes, that's beautiful. It's absolutely true. And it doesn't mean we don't all have challenges. But when you can get to the place where you can ride through them, where you can flow with what shows up, recognizing that there's something in it for you to learn, that's when it changes your whole perspective. That's when you see things through a different eye, you know, and suddenly now you're flowing with life instead of pushing against it and resisting it.
Now, you've done a lot and brought in a lot of the latest research in things such as epigenetics, neuroplasticity, and DNA. We've talked about cellular memory here, and it's pretty fascinating when people get out there. They say to themselves, you know, things just aren't working. I'm beginning to question all the things people told me in life I should be doing to get me to where I want to go. They go out there, they might buy a book that says Becoming the Best You, maybe take a seminar or even a weekend retreat, and a month, 6 months later, they still find themselves in the same place they were and frustrated. What is going on there that change doesn't occur as much as they would hope?
Yes. Well, what the scientists are now discovering is called epigenetics. And this is a lot of landmark research is showing up. And it's really turning things upside down. Because if this is not your DNA, the epigenome sits on top of the gene and formats your DNA. And what's happening is if you were, what your environment is affects you. And not only your physical environment, but let's say if you were in war or you were traumatized by any incident or you felt very anxious. So that affects you, you know, the cells within your body, and that then can be passed on. So what they're finding is, like there was research done on a rodent in Scotland by this one scientist. The mother had high anxiety, which you can always tell by the chemicals, the natural chemicals in the body. So he tracked what happened with her offspring. And each time she had children, the children had that high anxiety chemicals racing through their body from birth. So it isn't that they had a traumatic childhood, do you know what I mean? It already happened from the minute they were born. And he tracked it through 4 generations. So this begins to inform us that maybe some of the triggers we have, that's why they're so difficult to get rid of, because they've intergenerationally been passed down to us. So it kind of helps you to understand not to beat yourself up so much, but to look for and understand there are ways to turn this around, because it's not like your DNA. It's not fixed. The epigenome can be turned on, off, or dimmed.
And that was pretty much also the seminal work behind Bruce Lipton's work, the biology of belief, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting as you were describing those generations. I don't know why, but I just had this flash insight about the movie Forrest Gump and Lieutenant Dan believing that he was destined to die in war because everybody, all of his fathers and grandfathers before him did.
Right.
And the fact is, well, no, you actually survived this one. What are you going to do now?
What do you do now? Yes. Well, the good news is like what we've been seeing with people when they do the SOS method is that they have rapid behavior change. And it's so rapid, it's mind-boggling. So the understanding is, what is going on? Is it actually changing the cellular memory within your body? Because, see, that's where it's difficult for all of us. Because if you think you can go to a seminar and learn about something and have it be changed, that isn't what happens, is it? We all learn how to lose weight, but it doesn't mean it happens that easily just because we understand it. It has to happen on the cellular level within the body, and I began seeing this through certain holistic treatments from a very young age, because I was literally drawn to discover something different because I kept getting sick and I wasn't getting well by I'd get well momentarily, but because my mind was obviously still distressed and that hadn't shifted and neither had the cellular functions in my body, I would get sick again. And I think most people realize that mind-body connection nowadays, but then how do you get to that place within the body where you're holding on to all that stress and trauma?
Now, I was just thinking about, for instance, let's talk about something, a powerful area here that many people struggle with, and that's addiction. Now, I've actually brought this up and actually had fairly many experts agree with me that when we take a look at addiction and the way that we go about treating addiction seems to be in an old modality that really hasn't shown to really have very good success. The simplicity of stillness seems to be one of those things as people come to see what it is, seems to be one of those things that may be the light that may help people come away from something such as addiction.
Yes, well, a lot of people have moved away from addiction by doing SOS, the simplicity of stillness, but it's not something that I promise because I think we each have a journey. Now, what it'll do, it certainly will relieve the pressure that an addicted person has. What usually is experienced by an addicted person is this emptiness somewhere inside, that hole that wants to be filled. And so when you're constantly looking for a drug, for whatever it is that'll fill that hole. And when you do SOS, literally, even now in 5 minutes, you begin feeling everything differently. Everything slows down. You feel this hope inside. You feel this exquisite peace and a deep sense of relaxation. So little by little, day by day, that hole gets filled up because now you feel that love inside yourself. You feel that empowerment inside yourself. And that's the beginning of making a big change for anything. But we all have different layers of the trauma and the cellular memory within us. So it's going to be different for every single person.
So it sounds to me that for our listeners out there, be patient with your process, and everybody gets to their finish line, if you will, in their own due time.
Yes, like I will say, this has been happening for more than 15 years now. So I'm observing it, and what I'm seeing shifting is I initially, when I would do programs with groups of people, would do a 5-minute SOS meditation just to kind of get everybody to chill out from driving in their car, the busyness of the day, whatever, and then talking more about, all the different areas of what it can work on and how you can do it. And then we would do an 11-minute. And always by the time the 11-minute, everybody's really moving and shaking by then, really getting it deeply. But suddenly what started to happen is people started having experiences already within the first 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I went, wow, so something's really shifting. Either either consciousness is possibly shifting everywhere, or, and all of us are kind of moving up in a sense, or there is that the method itself and the meditations themselves have such impact that it can actually begin affecting you in 5 minutes' time. And I think that rings a strong bell for most people in today's busy world. Because even if you don't think you have trauma, everybody knows you have stress. Everybody has stress.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, whether it's figuring out your finances or working on a relationship or something going on at work or just needing to chill out, It's amazing that you can shift your perspective and feel that level of relief in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it's helping people to say, okay, once I do that and I see already that change, then I can even go to an 11-minute if I want it. But at least now I've got that 5-minute anytime I want.
Mm-hmm. What I love about reading your books is the fact that there are moments in them when a person comes to an area of understanding or knowing, actually, is a better word to use, that you are so very direct in what you describe. And I'd like to read something out of your book here before we talk about what the SOS method actually is. And I like this because it was so you. Again, so I don't know, I'll probably be quoting this one to other people, as I talk to them on the program here. But you say here, when we are given glimpses into a deeper dimension, the kind that doesn't seem to be constructed by our intellect and is key to unlocking more knowledge than we have been able to perceive, we sometimes shut it down because it is unfamiliar. Your engagement with this invisible energy increases your capabilities. Now, it's really interesting because as I was telling you about the last time I pulled that quote out of your book, when something is good or something is bad, either way, when you come to know what that means, really know it, you realize there isn't anything to fear. When the bad things come along, you start jumping in there and going, okay, now what good's going to come out of this? Because I know that when I come through this, that I've come away with more experience and more strength than I had before this happened. And you start to notice those bad things that you like to call them, those awful experiences. They'll probably come, but they won't come with as much frequency, will they? Because you're really building some tremendous mental and spiritual strength.
Yes, and that also is what you phrased there is what happens in your brain, and that's what's so great about understanding neuroplasticity, because you're setting a new happiness set point. So every single time you do one of these meditations, regardless of how you feel in the moment, it begins to shift your behavior and your perspective, which shifts your happiness set point. So like you said, then when difficult situations appear, they don't affect you in the same way. You're able to deal with them in a whole new way now, which is so helpful to all of us because, life is going to keep happening.
The other thing, too, is they don't feel like they last as long either.
Yes.
I think that's the one thing people have a trouble with when it comes to an adversity is they feel like it's happening now, it's going to happen for the rest of my life. I might as well just curl up in a ball and wave the white flag. I give up.
Yes. I'd like to share something with you that I just saw in this last tour because we have a foundation now. So there's an SOS Method Foundation as well as the .com side. And the foundation was asked to go and work with people in the villages in Botswana. And so I ended up working with a man who was a refugee. And after he did the first program, he came to me, and he was saying, he was just crying nonstop. He said, I have nightmares every night, and I have nightmares about when I was tortured, because I was tortured. And, and speaking to him, this is what happened to him 15 years ago. So it's not over, is it? Look how long the trauma in our life is there. And we do hear that, and that's why so many soldiers are in trouble, right? Because they keep having it over and over and over. And I said to the man, I said, I want you to continue the lessons, because he was in a 7-day course. It's an audio course. I said, I want you to continue the lessons and be sure that you do one meditation a day. And I'm returning here in a week, and then let's talk and see, because what I want you to know is there are other people in similar situations who have seen a lot of benefit by doing this work. So let's just see what could be possible for you. And when I returned in a week, the man was smiling from ear to ear. He'd been sleeping every single night. He said he looks forward to sleep now. He has a whole different perspective. He said, I am stress-free. He was so excited. I'm stress-free. I'm stress-free. Like that over and over. And I said, could you just share with everyone, about the torture and what happened? He spoke about it, where he clarified exactly what happened with the torture, how he got out, how his students, because he had been a history teacher, and how his students had brought him some food one night, and they had an axe or some sort of grind thing inside it, and that's how he escaped. But even speaking that, he didn't shed a tear. It was like he was able to observe it, see it. It's not gone, but it's not affecting him now, because there's so much hope in his life. And he's able to sleep, and he's able to move forward with his life. Now, that's unheard of to see happen in a human being's life in a week's time who've been spent 15 years. So if you have stress in your life, think what's possible for you, because if this could happen to someone with that level of trauma, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's really exquisite, isn't it, to know what's possible for all of us.
Well, I think what's even more profound, too, is the fact that you talk about how he came out of this where he could now share the story, and he was now just an observer of it, and he's not locked into it through the cellular memories and the things that we usually lock those things in, because a lot of times when somebody says, this memory came to me and I feel this way, and you can say, well, where do you feel that feeling at? And they can actually tell you there's an area in the body where that memory is stored. So that means it has active, alive energy, and in this particular case, what you're doing is you're removing that so that you don't have to feel and keep that energy alive anymore. Is that pretty much how it works?
Yeah, I believe that, I don't know if it's removing it or diminishing, and it's a play on words, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But I think sometimes I think it could, because I know for myself, I had such anger with my father, from the abuse that I had in my own life. So can I remember it? I can. Does it have any kind of zing when I do? No. It's, not at all. In fact, where it is that I send him blessings if it shows up in my brain, because I think he was a catalyst in my life that took me to where I am today. And I also am sad for him that I don't think he's ever experienced the love that we can all experience when we tap into that potential within ourselves and that love within ourselves, So it's either diminished or released, or, maybe it is completely gone. I don't know, but it certainly doesn't affect me,
Well, whatever it does, it doesn't keep you chained anymore, and you start, as we were describing earlier, you seem to get deeper dimensions of knowledge that you never really knew was inside of yourself. In other words, you tap into that infinite abundance that every single one of us was born with. That's what our soul is. It's infinite. And it's pretty fascinating to realize, you mean it's really possible, A, to get to that point, and B, discover a life of just possibility that I have always wanted but never dreamed was possible.
Yes. It's interesting, and when I went to this one camp and a village, and it was a women's group there, and I always get these, like, quizzical, doubting looks is where it starts.
Oh, come on, everybody tells me this is going to happen, and here I am now.
Yeah, well, what are you? What is this? What is it? And always after the very first, meditation, there's all of a sudden little like recognition or joy or little pops, you know what I mean? And then by the second meditation, everybody's really rocking. And then the head of the women's group, she stands up and she goes, "You must come back immediately. We will do it in the town hall. We will have the chief there. We will have social workers there. We will have the children there."
Well, how about that? Then we'll have a potluck and dancing afterwards, correct?
Exactly. So what was done is I worked with Great Plains Foundation, and which is it's actually a beautiful, beautiful place that anybody can go to. They have luxury safari camps that are on conservation areas, I guess you say. And so their management and staff was all trained as well, so it helped them within the hotel group, to be helpful to each other and kind and supportive. But I also trained facilitators because they want to see their community. They're all about creating a kinder, more conscious world. And I think, and so now they have facilitators who can go out to the villages and continue to train and do the work. So it's really spreading, and that's why I love looking and like working with people like you, because that's what you're all about, you and Joy, a kinder, more conscious world. And I think that's what's happening, and we certainly have enough darkness out there right now. We need to keep bringing out more light.
I know our political process seems to have turned into a Barnum and Bailey circus that even the founders of the circus could have never even imagined, and we realize, and I was just talking with her last night about that, and about all this, and I think, people are so busy trying to empower these people to take care of our problems for us, and I said, that's just not possible. What you have to do is not look to Washington and how to change that. What you need to do is, A, change what you see in the world. We heard this from Gandhi, and there's so much truth to that. Then you go and find out, now, how can we effectively change our community to what we want to have here and protect it for ourselves? And I think that if we start there and move forward, Washington, over time, at least we hope so, we can't guarantee anything, should change also, and there it is. And too many people, I think, really look outside themselves when it comes to this transformation they want. They don't realize, all the tools are in here now, and that's what the SOS method is about. So now let's talk about what this is, and I know we briefly talked about how it's used, but what directly is the SOS method? What is the process?
The process is there are tools, meditation technology, and teachings, and the teachings come from all the latest science and from holistic therapies that have been around for centuries. And so as you do the process, like the book leads you through a whole process where you're doing a 3-step process. So you do a tool, then you always put in the fuel of the meditation technology, and then you begin to act on it and bring it into life. So it helps you take those 60,000 thoughts a day, narrow it down into a strong focus, and begin shifting and changing where you need help or where you just want to really succeed in your life. And that's what it helps people. And then on the other level of just doing a 5-minute meditation in the middle of the day or at the beginning of the day clears the slate, and you're ready to see things in a whole different way. So it's a very simple 3-step process, and just on some days you'll just do the meditation technology. And you can do a 5-minute, 11-minute, and there's longer ones still.
Now I know that you have sensory processes that are used in this that are sound, sight, touch, and intention. Tell us why that's effective in this.
Well, it's very effective because we each learn differently. And we each need to understand things in different ways. Or some people are very auditory, and they'll get everything through the sound. Other people are very visual. So it's almost like you have to see things to understand it. And so what happens as you listen to this meditation, the meditations really affect you in all those areas. Many people, what I did is I took music, and I found all kinds of music because all the technology is placed on music. So the mind says, oh, that's beautiful. I like that. And it doesn't fight you to try to become still. You know?
That's why most Westerners have a hard time with that Eastern philosophy. It's all wonderful, and I mean, I even went through this myself in my 20s, like, boy, this is all so cool. I love the language, but I got to sit here and do this all day long. You know, I just didn't get it then.
Yeah, yeah. I literally walked away when I first tried it years ago and said, no, I'd rather do drugs now. That's where I was at, you know. And you know, and then after time, after this was developed, I mean, all the drugs dropped away because this gets you into such a more fulfilled, complete, and happier space. You wouldn't even begin to do that anymore, you know. But you're right, and that's where I was challenged too. As much as I studied it and understood how beneficial it could be, if you're not accessing that sweet spot, you're missing the benefits, you know. And then when I began studying the holistic traditions and seeing how profoundly my body was affected and brought back to healing, I realized that somehow a combination of these two, you know, in a sense, would really get us to a whole new lifestyle, right? So that suddenly now I look at it as simple as brushing my teeth. I'm going to do it every day, even if it's only a 5 minutes, because it helps keep me, you know, clear. It helps keep my body healthy. As my doctor says, well, thanks for visiting. Everything about you is absolutely fantastic. So, you know, and that's good to hear as we mature, you know. So it's a nice thing.
Fascinating stuff. I know as you were sharing that story earlier, I was reminded of a gentleman that I had seen on a documentary where he had spent the better part of 50 years of his life in and out of prison. And he was a Vietnam vet. And, you know, most of his problem as he would get out is that he would find himself back in the addictive cycle of using drugs, drinking too much, and so forth. And then he'd find himself in trouble again, and next thing you know, he's back in prison. Well, there happened to be a therapist that came along with an idea that I thought was really fascinating, especially as I read the 4 things that you use in SOS technology here about the sound and the sight and that. And so what the therapist had him do, he says, I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to write a letter, and I want you to write a letter apologizing because he had discovered that this guy had been harboring this deep pain about this person that he had to kill in the war. And he wants you to write a letter to this person apologizing to both him and his family and also explaining why you did what you did. And that forever transformed him when he did that. And that was the one key element that changed everything for him. And, you know, when you think of something like how simple it is for transformation like what you're talking about here, and that what you lose by not trying and really making an effort to do this, you know, that should totally overpower your reasons for not wanting to do it.
Yeah. Well, and if you can begin at 5 minutes a day, that's pretty easy.
You know, and that's the funny thing about meditation. People say, well, I don't have time. And it's like, you know, I'll guarantee you I can find you the time in your day. You're busy because you think you're busy.
Yeah. Well, what you find is, you know, what I developed, which people can also come and check out on the website, is a free gift where you're listening to audio recordings that explain how to do it, what to do, where it comes from, and then attached to that is a meditation. And so, you know, and these are they're all under 15 minutes. They're usually between 10 to 12 minutes. So just in 10 to 12 minutes in the morning, you're listening to, okay, I get that, I understand, and then you have the meditation. And then you go about your day. And then you see things like you'll get a new awareness, things start shifting. And what I saw in Africa, my God, I would say that, I don't know, more than 90% of the people all kept talking about how great their sleep was.
Hey,
wow.
That's a great start right there.
It is. So I guess that's really something that most people probably feel like they're not getting enough or not getting a rich enough sleep or, you know, a deep enough sleep or something. Because one after the next kept talking about, I sleep like a baby, I sleep like a baby.
There you go.
So that's a good thing, yeah.
Well, that means their mind finally turned off a little bit, probably.
Yeah. Yes. And that, you know, well, I think a lot of the people were doing the meditation before going to sleep. So, you know, we know the sleep state, the dream state, and the awake state. But when you do these meditations, you're accessing what we were discussing before, that fourth state. That's beyond what we can even claim because we're rarely there. So a lot of times we think, oh, I'm getting sleepy, but you're actually moving into that other state. And if you can begin your sleep from that other state, think how deep your natural sleep will become.
Now, a lot of people, as they look toward personal improvement, you know, as I mentioned earlier in the program, seem very unsatisfied with where they are in life. So a lot of times they believe going out there and finding ways to attract a better relationship in their life, a better career, perhaps better money, those sort of things that all of us have the ability to attract to ourselves, then, you know, they go out and they try doing this and find themselves frustrated. What has been the experience with this method for people who perhaps feel like their lives are fairly normal, but they just want more? They want to be able to really make that intention work. They want to make that attraction work. How does this method really kind of help maybe hopefully take them in that direction?
Well, what it does is I say, like, you know, you have this amazing body and mind. And you could have, let's see, you could have this exquisitely beautiful car, whatever's your favorite car, you know, BMW, Mercedes, you know, Aston Martin, whatever it is. Right?
An ostrich if you're in Africa.
Yes. But the thing is, if you don't put fuel in it, where are you going? You're just sitting. So what that meditation is a way to fuel that inner power that you have. So it opens up your creativity. It's like unleashing, you know, so much creativity and that potential that you have to get up and go. A lot of people feel tremendous vitality. One woman said, you know, she felt so calm, she was afraid she would be less productive, but she actually became more productive. And a lot of people say that. So it's about boosting your mental awareness. It's about seeing new opportunities and moving on them. Because often we have insights of things, but then all our fears or our doubts stop us from moving forward. So what's happening is, as we were saying, as the negativity and the habits start releasing, now you're able to really move forward and you're noticing greater courage, greater vision, greater passion. So it really assists. Now, everybody's different, you know, but I would say what we found is the second greatest effect of SOS is hope. And when you have hope, that is what gives you the passion and the excitement, and then you're ready to start moving on things and then taking it into action. So, you know, we have lots of stories of people and how that affects them in their lives.
Now, one story that comes to mind that I thought was really kind of interesting, I think, because I don't know that I've ever read a story like this in a book before, but it was about a gentleman who had a dream of becoming a balloon pilot. Tell us about that one.
Yes. Well, this happened quite a few years ago, and I was in Kenya, and I was in the Maasai Mara, where the wonderful Maasai people are. And the rains were so intense that I couldn't get back to my lodge. And so the guide took us to a village to stay the night there. And suddenly the rain stopped, and he said, okay, Marlise is here. She's going to teach us. And so in the middle of nowhere with just a fire going, I stood up and began training everybody in this method and offering them the meditation. And one man had a very profound experience, and he asked me to come to his clinic the next day. And he said that he had had a dream for years to become a balloon pilot because he wanted to earn extra money to help out at the clinic. But all of his friends began laughing at him, how silly, you're a Maasai, you don't have that kind of money, that'll never happen. And he had started to get very depressed. But in that night, as he was doing the meditations and the programs, he really got that it was possible. Something inside him just clicked, and he knew it was possible. He had hope again. And over the next 2 years, we stayed in touch with one another. And the interesting thing is, no, everything didn't turn around immediately. While he began feeling better and helping more people through the clinic, there was a war. There was drought. His cows died, which he was going to sell. There were all kinds of things that stopped. But somewhere along around 2 years, things began opening up. He did make it to the United States. He got to a school. They helped him. They even co-studied with him in every way they could, and he passed, and he became a balloon pilot. And then when he went home to Kenya, he's doing exactly what his dream was, and he flies, people in the balloons over the Mara, every day, and then uses that extra money to help at the clinic. So anything is possible when you realize that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I know the world is always a better place when you're in it and you're shining your light to automatically, consciously give them permission to do the very same thing. Now, what is the website people can find out more about this? And I know that in your new book that there's also an audio CD. Is that true? Or
there's in the book you do get some of the meditations as part of the book. So if you buy the Simplicity of Stillness method, you can find it on Amazon. And then if you come to the site, it's thesosmethod.com. Be sure you put the "the" in front, thesosmethod.com. And there you can also get a free gift, as I was explaining, of the audio recording that you can hear more about it, that immediately connect to one of the meditations, and you can begin that process. So again, that's another way people can learn who maybe don't want to read. They want to listen to audio. So
sure.
There's, all the different options for you.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you find yourself coming out to Portland anytime soon?
It's not on the schedule at the moment, but anything is possible.
Well, Africa keeps getting in the way, that dadgum continent anyway.
Well, it's been all over the place, and it has been across the United States as well. But what we're finding now is so many more people are finding us online, and since you can do the work by doing audio, because it's called Essentials Package, Level 1, Level 2. So there are ways to do all of this by yourself. And what we're finding is a lot of people, you want to do it on your own time anyway. So coming in, you can drop it into your phone, you can put it into your iPad, and then you begin the experience on your own, and you have the downloads now, there for a lifetime. So you can continue to do it again and again. So we're just finding, as technology improves, more and more people are coming and doing it online.
And I think what's important, too, is that a lot of times, as I had mentioned earlier in the program, when people are looking for transformation, the next thing you know, they go from perhaps a book into these weekend retreats. And what I have seen over the many years is a lot of times that kind of becomes a trap. In other words, okay, you've been to this retreat, now you need to go on to the next one, and then pretty soon people are spending thousands of dollars for these things, and it seems that all of a sudden the person that's conducting these elevates themselves to a guru status, and without me, your life is just going to fall apart. But you're just the opposite of this. It's like, no, here's the tools. I'm going to give you an idea how to use them. Let's get going. I've got other things to do.
Exactly.
Does that make sense? I mean, who wants a bunch of people following you around, for crying out loud?
Well, I think we're all here to live extraordinary lives. But sometimes it doesn't feel like that. And sometimes, because I've been on that side of the pain, I've been on that side of nightmares, I've been on all those things. And as we can empower ourselves, we begin empowering other people through our own gifts and our own talents. And that's why it's like, what is that saying about, when you love someone, you set them free? And that's what I feel like SOS does. It taps into the love we all have. It taps into the healing potential that our own bodies have, but that get blocked by some of that stress that we live with every day. And so as we can just blend something into our lives and have it become part of our lifestyle, just adding a 5 minutes, on the weekend maybe do an 11 minutes, then do a tool once a week. Suddenly now we're totally empowered in our lives, and we see our lives changing bit by bit by bit, So I'll tell you, Daniel, what's interesting for me is I had set an intention that I want to travel to parts of the world and I want to live there so I get to know the people. Like I want to go to Spain and I want to live there. I don't want to just go and do a program and leave. I want to live there. I want to be with the people. I want to enjoy the country. I want to know all about it. And then when this thing happened with Great Plains, I was working with the staff and management at 4 different concessions at their hotel groups, and going out to the villages and working with the people. So I got to live there for almost a month, being with the people, and do the work of SOS Method Foundation and the SOS Method. So I was like, wow, that's my intention. So isn't that how we want to live our lives? What are you up for? What do you want in your life? Because as you set that and you fuel that power inside you, it might not happen tomorrow, it might not happen next year, but as you hold it and you keep fueling that power within you and that healing potential within you, yes, what you hold to be true can be true for you.
I think, too, you'll also come to a point, because you've mentioned several times through the program about people being busy in their lives, that you might even come to the point you realize you're busy so much because what you're busy with is all the distractions that help you feel a little bit better about the fact that you're not really going the direction that you want to go. Do you find that a lot to be with people?
Yes. It's very true. It's very true, and that's why I think it's so important to sit down and take some time in reflection to make those choices, because otherwise you're just answering the ringing bell all day long. You're just in reaction instead of responding to what you want, and aiming in that direction. And I think that time for reflection and then fueling it again is a perfect way to do that. So you described it perfectly. Those distractions really distract us from living the life we want and love, Now,
you talked about something that I really want to bring to light here, because I think it's really important, especially that we live in a day and an age where this is possible for a lot of us, that you want to go and you want to travel to places, but not just be there to visit, but actually live there for a while so you can get the feel of what that community and that energy of that area is. And what you're creating is a lifestyle for yourself, Yeah. And I realize that we're in a day and an age, it's, for instance, just like my wife and I have created that particular lifestyle where we could go anywhere in the world and do this work. We don't have to be here where we are living now. We can go anywhere. And wouldn't you like to have that for yourself? Wouldn't you like to create a lifestyle where you're not going to work to pay the bills and hopefully save enough money for a vacation or something neato, but really have that ability to be free and flowing? And that's exactly what the SOS process seems to take people to, is that point where they realize, I'm now saying yes to life, but in a way that I never said it before.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to bring that, totally together. And it's true. Why can't we, keep moving toward that life we want? And it's like how you're doing it. I love that.
You started it. That makes you a troublemaker. That's what that is, see?
Perfect. Well, let's all start it together.
Well, it was great talking with you again, Marlise. I'm sure you'll be back on the show with us again. Again, the book is The Simplicity of Stillness Method, and it's 3 steps to rewire your brain and access your highest potential. And Marlise, before you go, if you'd give out that website one more time, I'm sure our listeners will be glad to have it.
Yes, it's thesosmethod.com. And if you come there to thesosmethod.com, then you can read about the foundation, and you can get yourself the free gift, and you can be experiencing that 5-minute meditation that we've been speaking about. There's many of them to try right now.
Very good. Take action. Do it during breakfast and do it now. That's for sure.
Yes.
Marlise, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join us here on the program and share this wonderful method with our listeners.
Well, thank you, Daniel, and love to you and Joy and everyone. Thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Absolutely. We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for joining us. You can also discover more about our program by visiting us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. Sign up for our weekly e-news updates. I think you'll enjoy the information and the insights that you get there as well. You can also follow us on Twitter at Beyond50Radio, as well as Facebook. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.